The alarm goes off. You get dressed. You drive the same road past the same lights to the same building where you'll trade the next 9 hours of your life for a number that hits your bank account twice a month. Same as last week. Same as last year. Same as the year before that. Here's what nobody told you. There is a specific mathematical moment where that stops being necessary, where your investments generate more income every single month than your job does, where the alarm becomes optional. That moment has a name. It has a formula. And most people blow right past it without ever knowing it happened and keep driving to that parking lot for years they didn't have to. It's called the crossover point. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where yours is and the 3 moves that pull it closer. Drop crossover in the comments if that parking lot is getting old. You're exactly who this was built for. I'm the wolf. I don't do motivation, I do math. And if this channel is new to you, subscribe right now. Because this video is one piece of a larger map. Every video the wolf drops is another coordinate. Miss one and you're navigating blind now. Let me show you Kevin Marsh. Kevin is 51 years old, lives in Denver, Colorado, makes $85,000 a year, $7,083 a month before taxes, $5,200 after. He has $310,000 in a 401k, a modest savings account, and a mortgage with 11 years left on it. Kevin is not behind. By every standard metric, Kevin is doing well, better than most. Kevin also believes he is 14 years away from financial independence. Kevin is 6 years away. He just doesn't know it. Because nobody ever showed him the 3 variables that determine exactly when the crossover point arrives and how moving any one of them collapses the timeline. Those 8 years Kevin is about to lose? That's 96 Monday mornings of that parking lot, 96 alarm clocks in the dark, 96 months of trading time for a paycheck he no longer mathematically needs. Not because Kevin failed, because Kevin never ran the numbers. Let's run them. The crossover point is the moment your passive monthly income equals or exceeds your monthly expenses, not your salary, your expenses. This distinction is everything. Kevin's monthly expenses, mortgage, utilities, food, insurance, transportation, total $3,900. His current investment portfolio generates approximately $620 a month in dividends and interest. The gap between $620 and $3,900 is $3,280. That gap is Kevin's prison sentence, measured not in years, in dollars per month. Here's the formula the wolf uses. It's brutal in its simplicity. Monthly expenses multiplied by 300 equals the portfolio required to reach the crossover point. Kevin's $3,900 in monthly expenses times 300 equals $1,170,000. That's the portfolio size at which a 4% annual withdrawal rate, the standard validated by decades of market data, generates enough monthly income to cover his life without touching his principal. Kevin has $310,000. He needs $1,170,000. The gap is $860,000, 14 years at his current savings rate. That's what Kevin calculated. But Kevin made a critical error. He only looked at one variable. There are 3 variables that determine when your crossover point arrives. Change any one of them, and the date moves, sometimes by years, sometimes by decades. Variable 1, portfolio growth rate. Kevin's 401k sits in a target date fund with an expense ratio of 1.1% and an average annual return of 5.8% after fees. Mediocre, not catastrophic, just mediocre. If Kevin switches to a low-cost index fund portfolio, Vanguard Total Market, Fidelity Zero, Schwab equivalent, his net return after fees moves from 5.8% to approximately 7.4%. That 1.6% difference on a $310,000 base compounding over time closes his gap by nearly 3 years. He doesn't earn more. He stops leaking. Variable 2, monthly expenses. Every $100 Kevin cuts from his monthly expenses moves his crossover point by $30,000. Read that again. $100 per month, $30,000 off the finish line. And Kevin pays $180 a month for a gym membership he uses twice a week and a streaming bundle he watches on weekends. That's not judgment. That's math. If Kevin redirects $180 toward index fund contributions, his required portfolio drops by $54,000 and his monthly investment base grows simultaneously. The finish line just moved 18 months closer. From one decision. Variable 3. Yield architecture. This is the variable Kevin has never touched, and it's the most powerful of the three. Kevin's $310,000 generates $620 a month, roughly 2.4% annual yield, because it sits in growth-focused equity funds that reinvest dividends automatically. The money is growing, but it's invisible. Kevin can't spend compounding, he can only spend cash flow. The wolf doesn't abandon growth. The wolf builds a parallel income layer. If Kevin moves 30% of his portfolio, $93,000, into income-generating assets, dividend ETFs currently yielding 4.1% to 5.3%, REITs averaging 4.8% yield, and short-duration bond funds at 4.9%. His monthly visible income jumps from $620 to approximately $1,240. The gap to the crossover point just shrunk by $620 a month. Combine all three variables: lower expense ratio, modest expense reduction, yield architecture on 30% of the portfolio. Kevin's 14-year timeline becomes 6 years, not because he worked harder, because he aimed at the right targets. Here's what the system doesn't want Kevin to figure out. Every year, Kevin spends not knowing his crossover point is a year. Kevin keeps showing up to that parking lot, keeps paying taxes on earned income instead of lower tax dividend income. Keeps leaving his yield on autopilot instead of engineering it. The Consumer Expenditure Survey from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows the average American household in their 50s spends $5,100 a month. At the 300 times formula, that requires a $1,530,000 portfolio to cross over. But the average American in their 50s who eliminates 2 or 3 significant fixed costs, a paid-off mortgage, a car payment, one major subscription category, drops their monthly expenses to $3,400. Required portfolio, $1,020,000. That's a $510,000 difference in the finish line, not from earning more, from spending less on the right things. The sheep runs toward a finish line they can't see on a track they didn't design, at a pace that was set for them by a system that profits from the running. The wolf calculates the finish line, moves it closer, then walks across it. Here are the 3 moves, starting this week. Move 1, calculate your exact crossover point. Take your actual monthly expenses, not what you think you spend, what your bank statement says you spend. Multiply by 300. That is your number. Write it down. Put it somewhere you see it every day, because you cannot aim at a target you've never defined. Then subtract your current portfolio value. The difference is your gap. That gap has a closing date, and that date changes every time you make a smart move. Move 2. Move the numerator. Build income architecture. Log into your investment accounts this week. Identify what percentage of your portfolio is currently generating visible monthly income versus silently compounding. If the answer is less than 25%, you are portfolio rich and cash flow poor. That imbalance is what keeps people working past their crossover point without realizing they've crossed it. Shift at minimum 25% to 30% of your holdings into income-generating assets, dividend-focused ETFs like VYM or SCHD, REITs with consistent distribution histories, short-duration bond funds in the current rate environment. The goal is not to maximize yield at the expense of growth. The goal is to make the income visible, so you can measure the gap closing in real time. Move 3. Compress the denominator. Hunt the fixed costs. Pull up your last 3 months of bank statements. Find your 3 largest fixed monthly costs outside of housing. For most people in their 50s, these are car payments, insurance premiums, and subscription stacks. Each $100 you permanently eliminate from monthly fixed expenses removes $30,000 from your required crossover portfolio. A $400 car payment you eliminate by paying off or downsizing your vehicle moves your finish line by $120,000 and increases your monthly investable cash simultaneously. This is not about deprivation. This is about engineering. The wolf doesn't cut joy. The wolf cuts the costs that are buying nothing except more years in that parking lot. Kevin Marsh has 6 years left. not 14. He just needed the formula. The 3 variables, the permission to aim at a real number instead of a vague someday. The alarm is going to go off tomorrow morning. And the morning after that, the question is how many more times it needs to go off before the math says it doesn't have to. For Kevin, Nikki, that answer just changed from 168 mornings to 72. For you, run the numbers. Tonight, not next week. Tonight, drop crossover in the comments with your gap number if you ran the math while watching this, because the wolf wants to know how close you actually are. And if you want the full breakdown of yield architecture, exactly which income assets the wolf uses and in what ratio, that video is already built. Subscribe and it's waiting for you. The sheep keeps driving to the parking lot. The wolf calculates the last day he has to. See you in the next one.